Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're just letting everybody in, so please grab a quick coffee or a tea, and we'll start in a minute. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to another B2B Leaders series, our webinar series that we've been running now for probably over a year. You're welcome to catch up on past webinars that we've run via our webinar landing page on our website or on our YouTube channel. Today we are talking about B2B AI demand generation, and I'm very, very excited to take you through the way the lead generation space is evolving, powered up by AI and technology. It's going to be an exciting session, jam-packed, full of knowledge. So without any further ado, let's kick off. So a quick introduction to us and to my fellow panelists. So my name's Dylan, founder and CEO of Shift One Digital, B2B marketing agency. We've been going for 15 years now and are leaders in the B2B marketing space. I'm joined by Tyler, who's our lead generation specialist, as well as Nanga, our senior digital strategist, and you'll hear from them later. Welcome, Tyler and Nanga. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Dylan. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Dol. Lovely to be on this webinar with everyone else as well. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, guys. So as you know, Shift One is very much about getting marketing and sales to work together and powering these two teams up. I studied marketing and sales. I'm a sales and marketing manager by trade and profession and by experience. And so it's always been my great passion to do marketing that delivers sales. That's always been at the heartbeat. And Shift One really is all about that, I must say. So I've built a business that just brings marketing and sales together and helps it to really work. So in terms of our marketing services, for those of you who don't know, it's all the way from market research, webinars, focus groups, personas, stakeholder relations, events, press and PR. And then obviously where we spend a lot of our time is in the digital rollout and execution. So using digital and technology and platforms to power up the marketing strategy. Digital is always the most cost-effective way at this point in time to deliver and to track everything that we're doing. So full specialists all the way through the board. And now we've got AI that's really just powering up everything that we're doing and making it a lot more impactful. 30 plus staff members, locations around the world. I personally sit in Cape Town. Got the majority of the team sitting in Joburg, Pretoria, and Cape Town. And then Michael, our business partner, sitting in America. So let's get into AI demand generation. What is AI demand generation? So we're going to be taking you through a run through of what it is, explaining it, as well as coming with some real insights and practical tools and tips on how to demonstrations of how you can get AI to really power up your sales and your lead generation and your demand generation. So let's get into that right now. So if I had to just set the scene, AI really is transforming everything that we're doing. On the one hand, it's a bad thing because AI text is very obvious. When you're reading something that's been generated by GPT, it loses that human feeling and everything's starting to sound the same. So how can you apply AI? And AI is already in almost every platform that we use, and it has been for many years. Machine learning, it's been there for many, many years. In the Google ads that we've been running, in the Meta ads, it's been there for a long time, but it's now ramped up with this agentic large language model AIs. We're going to break down how AI is reshaping modern lead generation and turning it into demand generation. So we're talking about intelligent targeting, predictive analytics. That's where we've come from, and we're moving to sort of AI-driven content, lead qualification, sales alignment, and sales automations happening in real time, highly personalized, highly personalized. And as you know, in marketing, the more personalized, the greater the response you're going to get. The more relevant, the greater the response you're going to get. Those two R's, I always remember, go together along with revenue. So those three R's go together. And so AI really unlocks that. So we're going to go through some of the tools and strategies to attract the right accounts and convert them faster, and really just help you understand how to deliver a sales pipeline that's really powered up by AI. Okay, so I'm going to, as always, start with our personas. For those of you who haven't been on this before, you know that we always start with who your audience is, because this is the basics of strategy and this is the heart of research that we do. So we really need to understand your audiences. So on a simple level, we've got this target market table, which we have a simple downloadable for. The target market table, I really need you to unpack. I don't want you to list a bunch of job titles under one industry. I want you to go mining CEO, mining manager, mining procurement manager, and each one gets their own row, and you can only lump someone together when their needs are the same and your messaging to them is going to be the same. But if it's different, you have to separate them out into different layers. So you cannot spend enough time on this, because if you're doing marketing and you haven't done an unpack of your personas or your audiences or your ICPs, whatever you want to call them, you are wasting a lot of time and a lot of money being generic. And as we know, you target everyone, you're targeting nobody. So really just dive into this, and the best thing to do is to actually go and speak to them. Just this week, we met with one of our clients' persona groups being plumbers, and we had an in-depth interview with a large plumbing concern. And the insights that came out were just absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. Just sitting and picking the brains of your actual target markets. It can be as simple as going along on a sales call and listening in, but you can't spend enough time on this step. And then you create your little persona graphs. And when you're creating content, you're creating it for Matt, or you're creating it for Joe or Sipiwe, whoever your persona is. So make sure that you've done that. And then you map out their customer journey. So what's the journey that they take through the buying funnel? And as we know, this is often quite a meandering maze. Nobody goes directly from A to Z the way you want them to be. Often they see your ad, they don't click, they go to a website, they don't fill it out. They see your socials, they click on socials. So your attribution marketing needs to pull everything together. So once you've done your customer journey mapping, then you can start to identify where AI can start coming in and how it can really start powering up each phase of the funnel for each persona. So this is really where AI can start to power things up, in terms of awareness, consideration, all the way through to loyalty and repurchase. So I'm going to hand you over to Nanga, who's going to go into a little bit more detail around AI demand generation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. Welcome, everyone. So now we'll move on to AI demand generation, where we're going to speak about the difference between traditional lead gen and new age AI demand generation, as well as the frameworks for this, and also maybe touch on why most businesses fail in this section. So what you'll pick up on, and I think what most businesses can attest to, is that sometimes we're unfamiliar with what our sales teams do, right? So one of the stats that we've seen and picked up is that sales teams spend 72% of their time on non-selling tasks. So if they're only spending 28% on actually going to the customer, how do we optimize these 72%? And that's where AI can really reclaim some of that time and also speed up processes. So lead gen versus demand gen, what's the difference between the two? Traditional lead gen focuses on capturing contact information, right? You run an ad or you do SEO, and your main objective is just to collect that data: name, surname, website, email address. However, with demand generation, we look at creating an environment where the right buyers want to engage with your brand, right? AI has fundamentally changed the rules for that. It is no longer about who can generate the most amount of emails and how many contact informations can we grab, but how can we identify, and this is where AI can assist, how AI can assist in identifying intent early and also provide the most value. So it takes away the guessing from everything and really going into the nuance of who we're speaking to at the exact point of their journey. Now, traditional lead gen versus demand generation. Lead gen focuses on volume. AI demand generation focuses on intent. So the goal of lead gen was to just get as many people as possible into the database, where intent or demand generation focuses on actively looking to solve a customer's individual now, not later, not next week, but now, actively monitoring the current market. So what is AI demand, or what does AI powered demand generation really mean? There are two factors to this. The first is the role of data and intent signals. So in a complex B2B environment, the buying committee, being the stakeholders that are involved in the decision making, are who we want to obviously communicate to and target, right? However, AI powered systems can aggregate these signals to build a composite view of the account readiness. And examples of these signals are website visits, webinar attendance, third-party research, and or social engagement. The second step to this is AI system enablers. So instead of manual segmentation of what we used to do in the past, AI can enable us to do a predictive analysis, so identify which accounts look like your best customers, dynamic personalization of those accounts, adjusting the messaging based on specific stages of the buyer's journey, as Dylan's mentioned, and then efficiency, right? Efficiency at scale, managing thousands of touch points across hundreds of different channels without increasing headcount. So you no longer need to go hire many different people. AI can really simplify and assist with that as well. Now, as I mentioned, let's dive into the actual frameworks, right? So how do we implement these frameworks into our demand generation? And there's a couple of steps to this. Our first is buyer intelligence and intent mapping. Most B2B companies are still playing a guessing game, right? They're throwing a budget at accounts and hoping something sticks. The problem isn't effort, it's the timing, right? It's not how much effort we're putting into actually generate, it's the timing of that. How and when are we speaking to these people? So most people are reaching people who are simply not in the market yet. And AI solves this by continuously scanning various different data sets to surface in-market accounts, right? People that are actively right now looking for your business's services and the ones actively researching solutions like yours. So your team stops guessing and starts selling to people who are already looking. Here's an example of what this looks like in practice. A manufacturing firm uses AI to monitor technical forums and search trends and spots an engineering company that has suddenly spiked its search into, for example, a modular cleanroom components, right? So it'll scan and pick up through search, through different channels and pick up that, okay, cool, company A is actually searching for this report or searching for this case study. Boom, that's a live buying signal that AI can pick up for us and give us that signal in order for us to obviously go ahead and communicate with them. And one of the biggest mistakes that companies make is relying solely on their CRM, right? The truth is most buying signals happen outside of your website entirely, on industry forums, review sites, search engines, and competitor pages. Point number 2 in this framework is AI-driven content and message relevance. One message doesn't work for everyone, right? Most businesses do that. Let's throw one message to everyone who's a potential buyer and let's hope that sticks. And no, that's not the case. As Dylan mentioned, once you identify that ICP, you will further understand what they're looking for. CEO cares about ROI, a lead engineer cares about specs, so a generic message is lost across both. And so what AI can do, it will take your core message and tailor it to every stakeholder in the buying committee automatically without you having to do it. So the right person always gets the right message at the right time. Here's what it looks like in practice. A visitor from a logistics company lands on your website. AI can automatically surface the case study and content most relevant to their industry and where they are in the buying journey and send that out to them via email once you've captured their data. And so the biggest mistake companies make is using AI to produce more content. So it's, hey, let's just create more case studies, let's create more white papers, but it's no, let's create custom white papers and content for specific stakeholders and committee buyers. And so the goal of this isn't volume, but it's relevance. The third step in this framework is multi-channel demand capture. Today's buyers don't follow a straight line, right? They don't just go Google search, website, contact, right? They're on LinkedIn, they're on Google search, they're reading industry journals, they're talking to their peers, and they're doing all of this before they actually come to your website. And so AI can manage your messaging and ad spend across the various different channels simultaneously, right? Which is the beauty of it, ensuring that the right stakeholders see the right message at the precise time that they're active. And so what does this look like in practice, Nonga? Well, AI can detect that the target account is engaging with your LinkedIn content, and it can instantly trigger a tailored search ad or message to their inbox, right? At that exact time, instantaneously meeting them exactly where they want at that moment. And so the biggest mistake that companies make is that they go all in on just one channel, right? LinkedIn alone isn't enough. Google search isn't enough alone, right? You need to be multi-channel, omnipresent. Let me just say this, your buyers move across the entire ecosystem. And so your brand needs to follow accordingly. Number 4, step 4 in this framework is sales and marketing alignment through AI. The tension between sales and marketing almost always comes down to one argument, which is lead quality. And that's what we see a lot. And Dill and Ty can attest to this, right? Is that marketing will say, they're delivering the leads. Hey guys, we're getting 100 leads. And sales are saying, well, these guys have no intent. They're not ready to buy. And so AI kind of ends that debate. Right? AI solves this with can solve this with a unified account health score is what we communicate to clients, right? Where sales only gets notified when multiple stakeholders at the same account, so the same company that we're targeting from an ABM approach, account-based marketing, have crossed a meaningful engagement threshold. So this leads to no more chasing cold leads, right? And hey, we've got 50 leads and you're calling all 50 and only one responded, but you're really getting on the phone and communicating with people that have the intent to purchase at that moment, right? So as I mentioned earlier, intent is the key focus when it comes to demand generation. And so there's no more missed opportunities. And so, Nanga, what does this look like in practice? AI can detect that 4 different stakeholders at a target construction firm or engineering firm have all engaged with your, let's say, the piece of content you create was your sustainability compliance guide. It can pick that up and detect that. And so it's not a coincidence. And that will then trigger a buy signal through the platform that you're using for engagement, for automation, and then trigger out and send communication or send that communication based on that guide signal. And so sales can then obviously communicate and actually almost be more tailored to their communication when they're speaking, whether it be over the phone or whether it's via email. And so the biggest mistake that companies make is scoring individual contacts. So it's, hey, Nanga from Shift One, just engage with us. But Nanga might not be the only stakeholder because he might just be the person researching, but Dylan makes the decision. And so we want to score it as a account, not just one individual person. So in B2B, individuals research, but accounts buy. So you need to be tracking the whole room instead of just one person. And then lastly, in our framework, we move on to continuous learning and optimization, right? Which most campaigns that B2B companies do, or what they do when they're setting up campaigns is they set up, they launch, and then they just leave the campaign to run, right? So by the time the monthly report comes in and it lands, the budget has already been wasted on what wasn't working. And so AI continuously tests everything. It'll test subject lines of emails. It'll test landing page layouts. It'll test content formats, ad creatives, learning what drives actual revenues, not just clicks. So the longer you have this run, the smarter it gets and the more it can optimize. So now what does this look like in practice? AI identifies that long form technical white papers are significantly outperforming short form videos for, say, for example, one of your personas, industrial designers, and it can automatically shift budget towards what's converting in real time. And I think in real time is the key word. And so one of the biggest mistakes that we see, or one of the biggest mistakes that companies make, is that they wait for the month-end report to make a decision for optimization, whereas we can create optimizations in person, in real time, in a live campaign. And really, if you apply all those 5 different frameworks, I mean, you'll really grow and optimize your demand generation efforts. Guys, thank you very much. I hope that was also very helpful, but I'm going to give off to Dylan where she explains why most businesses fail and why they fail in their demand generation efforts.
Thank you so much, Nanga. Okay, so let's jump into why this could go wrong and where it could go wrong and where you could waste a lot of money. So obviously lack of strategy is really important, as always, to start something with the correct thinking. What are you trying to achieve? Who are your key customers? Which are the products and services you want to focus on? Which products bring you the most money? Which ones do you want to grow? Where's the growth opportunity? What's under threat? So your Boston Consulting Group matrix is always great here. And then working out your value proposition. So really just planning it properly is usually the biggest reason why it doesn't fail. People are just like, let's just do it. And you just start and then there's no clear thinking behind it. And then it's like, but I wanted it to do this and it can't do this. And why isn't it doing this? And that thinking wasn't there originally. So take the time to do the thinking first. Obviously, data is key. So garbage in, garbage out. So AI is only as good as the data that it is fed. And so if your CRM is cluttered with outdated data, or you don't have segmentation, or you just have Gmail addresses, you don't have names, that kind of thing, it's very difficult. So I would suggest starting from a clean slate and building from there. And obviously a misalignment between marketing and sales is not going to create success here. Marketing might need it to measure marketing success, and sales might need it to do something completely different. And the two systems need to work together. Not all CRMs are created equal, and some focus on the marketing side and more pipeline, or sales side and are more pipeline geared. So you really have to choose your technology properly to align with your strategy at the end of the day to make sure that it can deliver. And, level 1 of AI is automation. There's nothing wrong with automation. I'm a huge fan of automation. And in fact, a large part of what we do when we're implementing, sales empowerment in our clients is automation based, because we just take the human out of the equation, and there's that automatic follow up and the automatic workflows that are happening that just, remove human error. So automation is definitely, it's level one of AI, but you definitely need to have intelligence when you're building the system. So you can't just be spamming, and you need to obviously have the human touch in it. So as with everything AI, it's AI is the tool in the hand of the human. The human needs to be the 75%. The human needs to be the heart behind it. Otherwise, it really does start to feel very cold and robotic. And I would say the biggest reason it fails is companies overcook their CRMs. And I can't tell you how many clients I engage with. And the first time when I meet them, I use the word, all-in-one sales tool and CRM, which is what our tool is called, which we'll introduce to you shortly. When I say that word, and I say the word CRM, it's like I've said a four-letter word. And I'm often told, do not say that word here. We just spent a year and millions of dollars, rands or pounds, implementing this highly complex CRM that nobody wants to use. It's too complicated, and it costs like thousands of dollars to change, because anytime you need a change, you have to get a developer in or an engineer in, and it's extremely complex. So not all CRMs are created equal. I've worked in like multiple CRMs, and I can tell you that most of them are not built for humans. There's very low UX. They're hard to use. They're complicated to change, and they're complicated to train. So simplicity wins when it comes to implementing a system that can power up your demand gen. Tyler, do you want to take us through some practical application and tips?
Great, thank you. Yes, guys. So as Dylan mentioned, I'm just going to chat a little bit about how you can actually put these things into practice and automate via your AI-powered CRM. So there are 4 steps to follow when automating your lead flows. Firstly, guys, you need to know exactly who you're speaking to by identifying your ideal client profile, which Dylan touched upon at the beginning of the presentation. Next, you need to map out your customer journey and create tailored content to be used in your automation. Third, the actual build of your workflows in, like Dylan mentioned, our custom CRM, which is called Scale One, or any other platform of your choosing. And then finally, your bookings should start coming in as soon as your automations fire. All right, so talking about our custom CRM, we recently launched our all-in-one tool called Scale One, which is used to create AI automations among many other features. So in the background, you can see here's what an automation workflow looks like on the platform, which features, of course, your triggers and your various actions, your conditions, and your steps that would fire automatically. So guys, it's important to remember that automations are like your powerhouse behind demand generation. And it's so key that you start using them and stay ahead of the competition. All right. So as I said, automations in Scale One are extremely powerful. One of the main key features is that it allows you to get meetings booked directly in your calendar, pretty much on autopilot, with automated reminder and follow-up emails and SMSs that help nurture your leads into conversion. So Scale One has a lot of AI built into it, and this allows you to build things called AI agents. I'm sure you guys have heard that term being thrown around a lot. So the first one I want to chat about is called the conversations agent. So this pretty much allows the system to automatically reply to comments and DMs on the social media side. And then in the review side, you can respond to your customer reviews on your site, such as Google reviews and Hello Peter. So obviously the power of this is your, quick responses and meaningful responses. It really helps build trust and sentiment with your client base.
So I just want to jump in, Tyler, if I may, and just point out that all of this has been done before and nothing is terribly new. But what makes the whole system into demand gen is when everything pulls together in the system and the buying signals are flagged. So you've got all these various different little components and elements that all pull together in the back end to highlight to you who is really low down on the funnel and ready to, has high intent, ready to buy, who's warm and who's hot, and then also enabling the system to fire off automations and pull everything together. So you don't just have chats happening on social media handled by, either your agency or a junior or the call center, and not feeding into a central system that's firing off triggers because I realize that this person is actually interested in this, and And so I'm adding him to that list. And the whole, we call it a CRM, but you can call it whatever you wanted. The whole dynamic demand engine machine pulls everything together in the back end. And that's really what I don't want you to miss when Tyler's going into the detail, is you got to understand this all part of this golden thread. Sorry, Tyler, please carry on.
No, exactly. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head with that. So the next part of the conversations agent that I'd like to show you guys is the inclusion of an AI chatbot, which can interact with leads on your website as if it were a human. And then obviously after the chatbot conversations take place, you can also trigger your workflows to fire and nurture those leads down the funnel. So as you can see, it also features a live dashboard, which allows you to track, how many conversations have taken place, or maybe how many messages have been sent, over a certain time period. So it's always great to have the data allowing you to optimize your agents and, move forward from there. So the next agent that Scale One features is called Voice AI. So guys, this tool, it really makes me so excited, and I can't stress how powerful this tool is. Voice AI allows you to make outbound calls, and it allows you to take inbound calls from your prospective clients. So I know that most people are quite skeptical about voice agents, as typically in the past they sounded, extremely robotic, and you immediately don't have time for it, so you end the call. But Scale One's voice agent sounds quite human, and it also allows you to customize your various accents and the languages of the agent. So one thing we should always keep in mind is it's most probably best to be transparent and mention that it is an AI talking to the client, just for the sake of transparency and, not to lose trust to your leads. It's nothing worse than talking to an AI when it's a bot and they try and pretend it's actual human. So yeah. Then obviously, once again, when calls take place, automations can also fire thereafter to help nurture them as well. So here we have a bit of a recording of how an outbound call would sound using the voice agent.
Yeah, I was actually waiting on that list to come through, so I'm glad you called.
There we go.
I'm glad I caught you.
Yeah.
Calling to book a time for you to meet with your realtor. The purpose of the meeting is to customize a list of homes for you to see with properties under 600K in the Vancouver area. This way we can ensure the list is tailored to your preferences. May I go ahead and book that meeting so the two of you can discuss this further?
Can you just do it for me? I really just need to get that list.
Of course, Cody. Let's get that scheduled for you. Do you have a specific...
I want you to make the list for me. I don't want to have another call.
I understand, Cody. The meeting is essential because it allows your realtor to understand your specific preferences and needs to create...
Okay, great. So that's just gives you an example of how the outbound would sound. And then, as I mentioned, the voice agent can also take inbound calls and handle your customer inquiries. So obviously, this also has its own dedicated dashboard with some useful stats, which you can use to optimize as well. Here's an example of what that inbound call would sound like. So I think you mute. There you go.
Hey, I just want to test out the bot to see if the agent is working.
Let's start again. What should I call you?
You can call me Ben.
Just to make sure I've got it right, your name is B-E-N. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's ben@test.com. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, great. Thanks. So that's also a bit of an example of how that would sound. Guys, the possibility of AI automations are virtually endless, and I just wanted to share with you some other use cases for them. So in this case, as you can see, you can integrate ChatGPT to create some tailored content for you, which is then automatically posted onto the social media platform of your choice. In this case, it would be LinkedIn. All right. Then finally, in this case, as you can see, you can use AI to pull some lead data from a database platform such as hunter.io. You can pass it directly into your CRM system. You can then get it to send out personalized emails on your behalf. And then finally, you can capture the responses from any leads. All right, then close off. Over our years of experience, we've created an entire demand gen ecosystem at Shift One. So as I've been talking about, Scale One is our all-in-one CRM and tool. Sales One is our smaller scale growth engine for SMEs. Growth One is our large scale demand gen engine for enterprise level companies. And then finally, AI One offers our agents, workflows, and solutions. So that's pretty much it from me. I'm just going to hand back over to Dylan to close it out for us.
Thank you, Tyler. So yeah, the era of high volume, low intent lead gen is over. And for B2B businesses, we know you've got complex buying cycles. The path forward needs to shift, and AI-powered demand generation is that shift. So it's not just about efficiency, it's about building a system that respects the buyer's journey and aligns your internal teams around a single goal, which really is revenue. So as mentioned, we specialize in designing and implementing implementing AI-driven systems that integrate marketing and sales for complex B2B environments. We don't just provide tools, we provide the strategic framework that turns AI into a sustainable competitive advantage. And it's really about the measurable ROI at the end of the day. So without any further ado, I just want to check if anybody has any questions. You can go ahead and post that in the chat. And while you are posting that in the chat, here are 2 downloadables. As always, we give away some free downloadables. You can experience some of our automations firing off from our lovely little system. We've got the free AI-powered demand generation framework for you to download. We've also got an article on AI entity trust that you're welcome to have a look at. I don't see any questions coming through, so we must have answered everything or overwhelmed. If you're ready to take off and take your brand to the next level, definitely give us a call. And if you'd like to book a demo on Scale 1, please let us know. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for another really, really impactful session. Thank you for all of your engagement and your input. And thanks to my co-hosts and panelists, Tyler and Nanga, as always, power team. And do call us if you need any help with setting up your demand gen engine. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next month for the next session, topic yet to be disclosed. You're welcome to send us questions or any topic that you want us to cover. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, folks. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Like,
Take
comment,
care.
follow, and subscribe. Have a great day. Thanks, guys. Bye.